So I was scrolling YouTube like I normally spend 75% of every day when I came across this post from PointlessHub. Morbidly curious about why this guy, who's normally pretty consistent with his video teasers, suddenly wanted to do a detour. So I did some digging, and that's how I discovered War of the Worlds 2025. So what did I do? I ordered a pizza, had a little funky smelling oregano, and watched this movie from beginning to end. And let me tell you, this is a movie unlike anything I have ever seen. I am not kidding or exaggerating. Some of you might be wondering, seriously? You? Half of your personality is devoted to film and literature. You've seen so many movies, so many shows, and read so many books, so how could this generic-looking action movie be one of the most unique things you've ever experienced? To that I say, this movie is so cheap, so shoddily put together, and so poorly made with surprisingly famous actors that it kinda puts the Sharknado movies to shame. I went into this movie knowing next to nothing. I knew it had 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, I knew it had Ice Cube.
Clearly I wasn't talking to you, big titties.
And I knew that it was bad. That was it. I was expecting some Asylum shit, but this movie is so utterly cheap and garbage that it transcends Asylum films, and ascends film in general. Because, I don't say this lightly, this is not a movie. Though it is played on a screen, has a cast and crew, and is feature length, calling War of the Worlds 2025 a movie feels like a kick to the balls to any and all past, present, and aspiring filmmakers. This glorified series of screen recordings, actors taking a walk around town while filming themselves, Ice Cube staring into your soul while obviously reading the script as he says his lines in real time, and shameless corporate bootlegging and product placement is unlike anything I've ever seen. Apparently this was made during the COVID lockdown, though I feel like any sentient being with even the slightest iota of media literacy and common sense could tell you that. Because you can just feel the depressed and angsty energy of the summer of 2020 slowly seeping into your psyche as you notice how the characters will seldom even be in the same vicinity as one another. Half of this quote movie is actors making Zoom calls and FaceTimes, staring into the camera, and talking to each other about the apocalyptic event happening outside. Oh, and this apocalyptic event, by the way, isn't some generic alien invasion like it probably could, and definitely should have been. This is an adaptation of one of the most beloved and iconic science fiction books ever written. Before we go any further, let me just say that I have not read War of the Worlds, nor have I seen any previous on-screen adaptations. I don't know, maybe I'll get around to reading it after I finish every Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book and all the original 6 Dune books. But let me say, even as someone who knows next to nothing about the story aside from tripods and Tom Cruise, this is a butchered and insultingly unfaithful adaptation. But who knows? Maybe by some sick chance I'm wrong, and this movie from the early 2020s about 2020's technology and is riddled with 2020's political commentary is surprisingly accurate to a novel written before the refrigerator was invented. Or I'm just making a fool of myself by merely suggesting that and have spiritually spat in the mouths of every fan of the novel. You know what? Discredit everything I've ever said on this channel, because I cannot imagine that this movie is at all accurate to the source material outside of the revolutionary concept of aliens invading Earth. You see, and walk with me on this one. The concept of having an entire apocalyptic movie being filmed from the POVs of our characters' electronic devices and only catching glimpses of the carnage around them isn't a bad idea in concept. Heck, it's not that far off from found footage movies, but those movies have the benefit of taking place in places and featuring our characters going from place to place trying to survive. But this isn't found footage. For simplicity, let's call this movie zoom footage. And again, I feel like the concept of a zoom footage film is kind of interesting, but when I say that, I don't mean legitimately interesting enough to make a feature film out of it. I mean one would find it interesting while at a party with their friend who's had a bit too many dirty Shirleys talking to you about his new movie idea, and you're 7 Midori Sours in, and kiss him square on the mouth because a zoom footage movie is the best idea you've heard that hour. You see, it's an intriguing idea if you don't think about it for longer than it takes for your neurons to create a thought in your brain. Like, your initial vague emotional state you feel the instant you hear about the concept of a zoom footage movie is about as long as you will think it's a good movie idea. But the second you put a fraction of a ponder into it, you realize you guys should probably call an Uber. I know next to nothing about the film's production other than who's in it and when it was shot, but let me say my hot take. I don't like the term a lazy movie, because anyone who knows next to anything about filmmaking or who puts any logical thought into what goes into making a film knows that no Hollywood film is lazy. Even if a movie is lazy in concept, i.e. My Old Enemies, the live-action Disney remakes, the sheer amount of effort it requires to create one of those and put it on a screen of any kind is nothing to sneeze at. Even creatively bankrupt films that still have hundreds, if not thousands of cast and crew members dedicating hours every day, every week, for either months or sometimes years into making it. Calling a feature-length movie of almost any kind lazy is an insult to the crew who dedicated huge portions of their lives to making it. A common way to convey this argument that I hear all the time is that, quote, modern movies are lazy because they heavily rely on CGI, end quote. I also refute that statement because I believe we are all aware of the average modern day CGI artist's severe overwork. Come on guys, yes, practical sets may seem like they require more effort to the average viewer, but these animators work their asses off. It's not like CGI appears at the press of a button, or at least it didn't used to. Jeez, how far we've fallen. So like my other statement earlier, I truly do not say this lightly, that this movie was lazy. This was just a lazy, hastily put together product. And I'm not even saying that as my opinion or to be dramatic. I say that as a PSA to everyone with or without an Amazon Prime account. That being said, I kinda love this movie for all the wrong reasons. The sheer pain I felt in my heart as I realized in real time that the entirety of it will take place from the point of view of Ice Cube's computer desktop is a feeling I wouldn't trade for anything in the world. Because this was a different type of film viewing experience. This was a different type of emotion. This was truly War of the Worlds 2025. One of the things of all time. This is a movie where not a single aspect of it works. The concept is bad. The framing is bad. The set design looks like the pre-show of a Universal Studios amusement park ride. The clear lack of destruction as our side characters run around this supposed actively ongoing apocalyptic event is hilarious. The fact that none of these actors seem to be giving any more effort than the $20 their paycheck will take them is hilarious. The CGI of the aliens legitimately looks worse and more poorly integrated into the environment than some college animation tests and finals I've seen some of my friends make. But again, I'm sure the poor CGI artists did the best they could with the $37 they were probably given to animate these aliens and drones. But what honestly might be the actual worst part about this movie is the corporate bootlicking. I swear, if this movie had one more product placement for Amazon, Microsoft, or Apple, I think the laws of filmmaking would have crashed in on themselves and the future of Hollywood would be solely comprised of an endless cycle of 20-second pop-up ads on every movie theater screen around the globe, all advertising products you either already have or don't need. Though some might say movies are already at that point. Ending thoughts here, this is one of the worst things I have ever seen, and I don't even feel comfortable calling it a movie. But that being said, the viewing experience was pure euphoric joy and wonder as I watched every known conception and standard of Hollywood was broken before my very eyes as this quote, movie dragged us back to a time when we were all trapped inside on our couches smoking the devil's lettuce. And that is honestly the best way to view this film, with friends and not while entirely sober. It's a fun, ironic watch for like 10 minutes. Maybe skip through and watch the highlights, but you're better off not even thinking about this product ever again the moment you're done dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. Before I give my final rating, I need to explain my rating system real quick. I rate movies on a 1 to 10 system, 0s and 1s being extremely rare and almost impossible to achieve because I feel like even the worst movies have at least one small thing giving it a semblance of quality. Meanwhile, for me, a 6 out of 10 makes for a movie that is either equal things good and bad, or is so standard and ordinary that I have no strong feelings on it one way or the other. But here's the thing. I have no strong feelings on War of the Worlds 2025, not because it has an equilibrium of quality, the good and the bad balancing each other out, nor is it a standard and generic affair. Far from it, actually. But this movie was such an anomaly in human, quote, creativity, and gave me such a strange sensation that I came out of it not feeling empty, but feeling as if 2 hours have just passed over me. It's like the feeling when you go to bed and wake up the same amount of tired. It feels like nothing happened to you and you just continue about your day as if last night never ended. I think I need to create a new type of rating system for this movie because it is egregiously awful in every way, yet still finds a way for it to be boring. If this movie had actively infuriated me to the degree of Pinocchio 2022 or Mulan 2020, it would be a shoo-in for a 0 out of 10. But since it had this bonkers and uniquely awful visual presentation and was boring above all else, I cannot in good conscience rate it a 0. Thus, as of today, I'm creating a new ranking. This product gets a War of the Worlds 2025 out of 10.